In this video, we're going to be talking about masonry cavity walls. Before we get into the details for the project, I just want to give you a little bit of an overview of different masonry wall types. So in this image here on the left, you have a traditional composite wall. And as it notes down here, in this type of wall, the inner parts of the wall have a less expensive masonry, maybe that doesn't have as visually appealing surfaces. The nicer masonry you would put on the exposed sides. In the second example, this is a contemporary composite wall. We have two withes of CMU in this illustration, and in between them, it's filled with grout. So both of these withes are working together to form the structure and to take the loads of the building. The third example is something called a cavity wall. And the difference between this and this contemporary composite wall is that there is an air gap between the layers of masonry. In this example, we have an outer layer of brick, or an exterior layer, and an interior layer of concrete masonry units. The CMUs, concrete masonry units, are actually the structural layer of the wall. Okay. What happens here, and why this is done this way, is it's anticipated that water will make its way through an exterior surface, no matter how well the installation of the brick and the grout, or rather the mortar between the bricks was. Somehow water will migrate its way through, whether it's like in a heavy rainstorm or as a result of freezing and thawing. It's anticipated that water will eventually get in there. So this cavity is intended to be a pathway for water that migrates to the wall to make its way down the wall. At the bottom of the wall, it will be extracted back out to the exterior. So this is the type of wall that we're going to be drawing in Revit. So now I'm going to go to the Revit file. I am at the top of footing level, and where we're going to be adding this cavity wall is on this unit right here. So between column lines 2 and 4 and B and D. All right, the first thing that you would want to do is go to the architecture ribbon and under wall, choose architectural walls and look for a wall type called exterior brick on CMU. Right, this is what we're going to use as the basis for our wall, but we're going to make a few changes to it. First, you want to do is go to Edit Type and then click on Edit. All right, so just to give you a little overview of what we're looking at here, this is just all of the materials that make up that particular wall. So on the top of the list is the exterior side where we have the brick. And on the interior side, we have some gypsum wallboard. Okay. We're going to actually eliminate these two layers, and we'll add them later, and you'll see perhaps at a later time why we're doing it this way. But for now, I'd like for you to click on the layer 8 and delete it, and also on that outer finish, or that interior gypsum wallboard finish layer. So what we're left with is a series of materials that are outside on the exterior side of the core boundary. The core boundary is the sort of structural layer of the wall. In that structural layer, we have some CMU, concrete masonry units, that have a thickness. Remember, these are actual dimensions, 7 5/8. The nominal dimension, the thickness would be 8 inches, but the actual is 7 5/8. And outside of that, we have brick, we have an airspace, we have rigid insulation, and we have a layer of damp proofing, which is another means of preventing moisture from migrating through the wall. You'll notice here that these thicknesses, this again is an actual dimension for the brick. Instead of a 4-inch nominal, it's 3 5/8. We're going to change the thermal air layer to 1. And we're going to change the rigid insulation layer to 2. Okay. We also have this layer of damp proofing, which will remain at 0 feet, 0 inches. All right. Now, if you click on Preview, you're going to see a preview of the wall in plan. If I change this to section, I'll see the section of the full wall. Okay. Now, we're going to make another little change beyond the dimensions for the thicknesses. We're going to add something called a parapet at the top. So I'm going to go to a detail drawing to illustrate this. We're going to have a parapet that has on top of it a coping, okay? Sometimes they're called caps, and they're often made out of different materials. Sometimes it's a cast stone. Sometimes they make this element out of a metal. The whole idea is to keep water from getting within that cavity and into the masonry below. So we'll be adding one that looks like this, right? Now this area right here is called a parapet, and it's the part of the wall that goes above a roof. Some buildings have parapets, some don't. If it doesn't have a parapet, there's probably a little rise here before we get to the edge of the building, but it's going to have a lot lower of a profile. All right, going back to our Revit file, to add that cap to the top of it, we're going to click on sweeps. Okay. And right now there are no sweeps in this wall. We're going to add one. And we're going to change the profile of that sweep to a 16-inch parapet cap precast. Okay. And we're also going to place it at the top of the wall. So there are other types of sweeps that you can add at different locations within the wall. I'm going to say apply and OK. And you will then be able to see visually that there's now this cap sitting at the top of the wall. I'm going to click on OK and apply and OK, and I'm ready to add that wall. All right, so again, architecture, basic wall, and then it's a matter of clicking. And remember, you can do it in either direction, clockwise or counterclockwise, but if you kind of get into the practice of always going clockwise, it will follow the alignment that you've established for it in a way that probably will work better. Right now, the wall, if I was to click on 2 points, it's going to center it on those 2 points, but I want my wall to align with this line right here. This is the exterior face of the foundation that I'd already drawn. So I'm going to go to the 3D view here and zoom in here. So this is my foundation wall here. I want the brick to align with this exterior face. So I'm going to go back. All right, now the other thing is I want to place this at level 1. Right now I'm at the top of the footing level. I'm going to click on level 1 and double click on it. And when I go there, and you'll see this in your projects as well, we no longer see that foundation. We'll make a little setting change, and we may change this back later, but just so we can see where those are while we're adding this wall, I'm going to click on view range, and I'm going to change the bottom to unlimited and the view depth level also to unlimited, and apply it. Right, and so now I can see these. I'm going to go ahead and place my new wall on top of there. Now, going back to wall, and a couple things that I'm going to check here. I'd like for my wall to start at level 1, so it'll be directly at 0 feet 0 inches. But I want it to go up to where I had made level 3. And I actually want it to go up even higher than that. So I'm going to put it at 3 feet above that level. Okay. So that's all the changes for that part. And again, I want to change the wall center line. So it's not going to be centered on the 2 points that I snap on. I want the finished face to the exterior. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And let's take a look at it in 3D. There we go. And it's extending all the way up past that upper level. I'm going to go back to level 1. Previously, I had made a section cut here. Now, if you remember, the way to make those is to go to View and choose this section tool right here. I already have one, and I can see that it's here under the sections portion of the project browser. It's cropped, so I'm not being able to see the entire set of walls that I've made. So I'm just going to stretch those up for now, and we'll be doing some adjusting to them later. But if we zoom in close here, you can see that my brick is aligning with the left side of the wall. Now, if you want to see the far wall that's in the distance, we need to make an adjustment to the distance that the view has from the plan level. So I've clicked on my section view here, and you can see I'm only able to see from this location to just in front of column line C. If I want to see the whole depth all the way to the back, I'm going to drag that view window there. And now let's go back to section 1. So now I can see that in the distance. You know, you may want to bring it closer at a later point. For now, it's kind of nice to see the relationship of the wall beyond. So going back to the 3D view, that is the cavity wall for that first structure on the left side of your plan.